Imagine growing up in a luxurious Beverly Hills mansion, only to find yourself at the center of one of the most shocking murder trials in American history. What drives two young men from a life of privilege to commit a crime so brutal it shocks the entire nation? Join us as we unravel the eerie tale of the Menendez brothers, peeling back the layers of a family saga filled with dark secrets, betrayal, and a courtroom drama that left everyone questioning the true nature of justice. This is a story you won't want to miss.
Hello and welcome back, listeners.
We are so happy to be discussing our second episode today. It has many emotional twists and turns that make this case one of the biggest in the United States. Due to the recent popularity of many TV shows and documentaries on this case, it has captured the eyes of a new generation that has different thoughts on this case than at the time of the crime.
But before we get into it, we are going to have you guys get to know me and my partner even better. Hello, listeners. If you don't remember, my name is Yasleen. I have always had an interest in true crime. My best friend and I learned that we share the same interest a little over a year ago. We began listening to hours and hours of true crime podcasts together and would then discuss our thoughts on the case.
This interest in true crime podcasts grew stronger as we started doing our own research and deep diving into the cases we were listening to. At the beginning of this year, we had the idea to make our very own true crime podcast. It has taken some time to find out how to fulfill this dream, but here we are.
We are so happy that this dream has turned into a reality, and we would like to thank everyone supporting us and listening to the thing we have worked so hard on. Now, on to the case.
The 1980s were a pivotal decade for Los Angeles, California. It was marked by significant economic growth and increasing inequality. Living here during this time was known as the American dream. Living in a nice house, having a respectable job, and having a, quote, perfect family was all anyone needed in life. To the Beverly Hills community, the Menendez family seemed as if they were this perfect family. This, though, couldn't be farther from the truth. The family secrets could only be contained for so long before someone snapped. It was only a matter of time until they did.
The Menendez family were immensely rich. Jose Menendez was a very well-known movie studio executive and the head of the RCA Records.
Us here in Los Angeles, and I should point out this is the company, folks, that brings you the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
It is. So the company is broad-based and it provides pretty much what the consumer wants.
The road what you're expecting to make at some point.
But we think 1989 will be a tremendous year.
He was a Cuban immigrant who moved to the States at 16 in hopes of a better life. Jose then met Kitty as a late teenager. They fell in love immediately, and they were married in 1963 when Jose was 19 years old. His family did not approve of his marriage, but Jose wasn't the kind of person to let others tell him what to do. Kitty and Jose had their first son, Joseph Lyle Menendez, in January of 1968. After the birth of Lyle, Kitty was asked by Jose to retire and raise him, which she reluctantly did, leaving her job as a school teacher.
By the time Erik Menendez was born in November of 1970, Kitty Menendez had already become neglectful. The boys never lived in a safe environment for children. A former neighbor of the family and tennis coach for Lyle and Erik testified that Jose and Kitty were obnoxious, careless, and dangerous parents. The LA Times also reported that the neighbor said that Kitty Menendez was so negligent that when Erik Menendez cut his head on a trip to the mall, she finished buying a pair of shoes before taking him to the hospital for stitches. Kitty Menendez was known to take prescription drugs very frequently in alarming amounts and drink heavily. Near the end of the 1980s, she was suicidal after learning of her husband's 8-year affair, and she attempted to take her life on 3 occasions.
Jose Menendez was a controlling and malicious man. A classmate of Lyle and Erik Menendez was often around the family, stated that Jose was one of the strictest, meanest, most demeaning fathers she has ever seen. She also claimed that he was cruel to Erik, and he put him down all the time, and he had a fiery temper. Many around Jose stated similar things to this. Jose was known as a relentless boss. He would fire employees of RCA Records whenever he became frustrated and had no mercy on such individuals. As we stated before, Jose also had an 8-year ongoing affair with the woman in New York City that he would visit during business trips. The neglectful and cruel behavior from the boy's parents caused Lyle to become overly aggressive and Erik to become very emotionally unstable. A study at Harvard University claimed that early exposure to neglect can disrupt healthy brain development, affecting learning, problem solving, and social skills.
On the warm summer evening of August 20th, 1989, Jose and Kitty Menendez were watching television in a living room known as the Den in their Beverly Hills mansion. As they finally started to unwind and enjoy the time spent with just the two of them, they saw the two doors to the room burst open. Lyle and Erik Menendez stormed in carrying Mossberg 12-gauge shotguns and shot Jose and Kitty before they could even get the chance to realize what was happening. Jose was shot 6 times. Kitty was shot 10 times in total before the fatal shot to her cheek. She was on the ground, crawling away. Lyle ran to his car to reload before firing the final shot to her face. They then picked up the shells of the bullets so investigators could not track fingerprints to them.
Immediately after the killings, both brothers stayed inside the house expecting the police to respond due to the noise of gunshots in such a nice area of Los Angeles late at night. When the brothers soon realized that nobody was coming, the brothers grabbed the debris from the crime and threw it away at a local gas station. The boys then continued into town and went into a local movie theater for an alibi. To further this alibi, they then went into the Taste of LA festival at the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium. Roughly 2 hours later, the brothers came back to their Beverly Hills mansion and made the 911 call that their parents had been murdered.
Emergency? Yes, please. What's the problem? What's the problem? What's the problem? Someone killed my parents. Pardon me? Someone killed my parents. What? Who? Are they still there? Yes. The people... No. Were they shot? Yes, man, too. Were they shot? Yes. They were shot? Yes. What happened? There's a hysterical person on. We're trying to get screen further. I don't even know if it's funny. Is the person still there? What happened? We have units around. What happened? Who shot who? I don't know. You came home and found who shot? Yes. You know what? They're still in the house. The people that did the shooting. Get away from him! Okay, hey, let me talk to Erik.
The police did not seek gunshot residue tests from the brothers, which would have indicated whether they had recently discharged a firearm.
In the months following the killings, the boys began to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on luxury items. They bought businesses, cars, watches, tennis coaches, travel, and a beachside condo. The spending amassed to $1.6 million. The brothers eventually left the Beverly Hills mansion, choosing to live in an adjoining condo in a nearby Marina del Rey. During the initial stages of the investigation, police tried to narrow their search to suspects who had motives to kill Jose and Kitty, and investigated potential mafia and gang leads. As the investigation continued, they began to suspect the brothers were the most likely perpetrators due to the obvious financial motive and their excessive spending after the killings. In an attempt to get a confession from Erik Menendez, the police arranged for his friend, Craig Signorelli, to wear a wire during lunch with Erik at a local beachfront restaurant. They had Craig ask Erik if he and Lyle had been the ones to kill their parents. Erik immediately became defensive and persisted that he had not. Soon after this awkward encounter, Erik called his psychologist Jerome Oziel and made an appointment as soon as possible. When there, Erik confessed to Dr. Oziel that him and his brother had in fact killed their parents. After hearing that the brothers had killed their parents, Dr. Oziel spent the next few days talking to Erik and Lyle about what occurred. Due to patient and doctor confidentiality laws, Dr. Oziel was not permitted to tell anyone what he and the brothers talked about. He, though, did not obey this law and told his mistress, Judalon Smith.
After Judalon Smith had gotten into a fight with Jerome Oziel, she decided to go to the police and tell them that Erik had confessed to him and Lyle killing their parents. Even though these therapy sessions had been private, the police could use his confession to arrest the boys due to Lyle Menendez threatening Dr. Oziel's life if he had told anyone about killing, as he heard on the tape. On March 8, 1990, Lyle was arrested. Just 3 days later, Erik turned himself in at LAX airport after being informed by a family friend Lyle had been arrested in connections with the murder while he was on a trip to Israel for a tennis tournament. Both were held without bail. In August 1990, Judge James Albrot ruled that the tapes of the conversations between Erik and Oziel were admissible evidence since Oziel stated that Lyle threatened him and violated doctor-patient privilege. Albrot's ruling was appealed, after which the proceedings were delayed for 2 years. The Supreme Court of California ruled in August of 1992 that most of the tapes were admissible, with the exception of the tape of which Erik discussed the murders. After that decision, a Los Angeles County grand jury issued the indictment in December 1992, charging the brothers with the murder of their parents.
The Menendez case became a worldwide sensation when it was televised in 1993. During this initial trial, it gained the public and media's attention because Lyle and Erik had stated that they killed their parents out of fear for their lives after years of abuse at the hands of their parents. They both claimed that they went through years of sexual abuse from their father. Lyle claimed that he was abused starting when he was 6 years old. It continued frequently, getting worse and worse until it stopped when he was 8 years old. Erik claimed to endure sexual abuse at the hands of his father from ages 6 to 18. In the courtroom, Erik went into graphic detail on the abuse that occurred numerous times a month for 12 years. The allegations against the couple were supported by the testimony of 2 family members. The brother's cousin, Andy Cano, said that as a child, Erik told him about the sexual abuse. Diane Vandermolen, another cousin of the brothers, stated that she once told Kitty about Jose's molestation of Lyle, although Kitty told her that she was wrong. As physical evidence, the defense presented an inappropriate photograph of Lyle and Erik allegedly taken by their father when they were children. This shocked the nation and made many people question if these boys were really the greedy murderers the media had portrayed them to be.
Prosecutors argued that they had killed their parents for financial gain and that men could not be raped. Erik and Lyle's lawyers argued that growing up in this fearful and abusive environment made the boys do these murders as an act of self-defense. Erik testified that a couple weeks before the night of the killings, he had told his brother about the sexual abuse he was experiencing, which led to several confrontations within the family. Erik's last straw was when Kitty told him she knew that him and his brother were getting abused. Erik felt betrayed and in an act of anger told Lyle that they should kill their parents. The brothers also testified that their father threatened to kill them if they did not keep the abuse secret. The night of the murders, paranoid and afraid that they would get killed by their own parents, Lyle and Erik went outside to load their shotguns. Erik stated, "As I went into the room, I just started firing."
We will now discuss our opinions on the case so far. Joining us is our first guest star, Lauren Davis. Lauren, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Lauren Davis. I am Allison's sister, and I wanted to be on this podcast, number one, because I love it, but secondly, I've always been super into true crime. I think that's something that me, Allie, and Yasleen all have in common, and in addition to that, the Menendez case has been in the public eye so much recently, and from someone that didn't grow up in that generation, learning all the details about the case has been very striking, and I think that the brothers deserve justice. So I wanted to come here and speak about that.
Thank you. And just starting off talking about our opinions on this case so far, me and Yasleen both found it really interesting of how the court stated that many of the jurors and people just in the public eye didn't believe that men could be abused and raped. And it was definitely a thing in the 80s and 90s. It wasn't talked about, and it's honestly really upsetting. And we live in a generation now where we're really grateful that we can talk about things like this, but it's really sad that they lived in a time where they were basically made fun of and bullied for even saying such things. Lauren, do you want to comment?
Yeah. And the main thing was that it was prevalent in the courtroom, but the media was the main thing that brought on this harassment, you could say, to the boys. You have professional journalists and news anchors that should be professional because that's their job, and instead they're making fun of these boys, or even on like comedy things like SNL, they're making fun of them and poking jokes at them. So it's honestly just really sad that as a nation they weren't taken seriously when they talked about their abuse.
I also just thought it was really interesting of how their mother, Kitty Menendez, how she didn't do anything. She knew that her sons were being abused, and she didn't care. And I don't think we talk about this in the podcast, but her therapist came out and said that she literally said she didn't like her kids. She didn't care about her kids. And she literally said she hated them, and that she wished that they were never born. And I'm like, how? She must have had, like, she just was not a mother at all. Like, it's honestly disgusting of just how she got away. Well, I mean, she didn't get away with it because she got killed, but how, like, I don't even know. Like, it's just so baffling that you know that this is happening to your children and you don't do anything about it. The trial ended with 2 deadlocked juries. As a result, Los Angeles County District Attorney Gil Garcetti immediately announced that the brothers would be retried. The second trial was somewhat less publicized, in part because Judge Stanley Weisberg did not allow cameras in the courtroom. During the second trial, Weisberg, relying upon a legal decision by the Supreme Court in an unrelated case, limited testimony about the sexual abuse claims and only allowed the jury to vote on manslaughter charges for the father, but not for the mother.
Both brothers were eventually convicted on 2 counts of first-degree murder and the conspiracy to murder. In the penalty phase trial, they were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The jury noted the abuse defense was not a factor in its deliberations, but it decided not to impose the death penalty because both brothers had no prior criminal record or history of violence. In 1996, the brothers were separated and put into different prisons. They were separated for 22 years before being reunited in 2018. The brothers burst into tears and hugged each other during their first meeting in Donovan Correctional Facility. The 2 brothers are now married and are thriving members of the prison they live in. Lyle graduated from UC Irvine last spring, and Erik holds meditation for prisoners. This case is also so powerful because it brought the topic of sexual abuse of young boys to light. Many before this case did not believe that boys and men could be sexually assaulted and abused. It made many people realize that abuse like this happened more often than people had previously thought.
I really do think that it's important that the boys are finally getting the recognition that they deserve. I feel like for so long that, like, people just thought that they were these 2 brothers that murdered their parents viciously because they wanted money. And I think that it's really good now that, you know, I think that, like, the new generation of, like, Gen Z, I think that they're more obviously, like, accepting of things like this, and I feel like it's really interesting that, you know, that they're getting to make their own opinions on it now that, like, Gen Z is becoming adults and they're getting older. And I think that it's really, like, powerful that also just, like, from my personal experience, like, I had heard about the case, but I didn't know a whole lot about it, and then just recently coming to light because of the Monsters show and all the documentaries coming out, I think that it really has helped their case a lot, and I think that people are starting to realize that it's not everything is as it seems and how the media can portray it. So, Yeslin, do you want to reach on a subject?
Yeah, like just like how Allison said, like so many of our friends knew about this case, but since we started like researching this case, we've been able to tell them like, oh, this is what actually happened and this is why they did it. And yeah, I feel like so many people need to do more research on this case to be able to talk about it and not just see all this like not true agenda that has been spread around about this case. And yeah.
Thank you all for joining Yeslin and I on this deep dive into the tragic and complex story of the Menendez brothers. We hope this episode has shed light on the family secrets and the events that led to such a shocking crime. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and comment down below your thoughts on the case. Do you think the boys killed their parents for money or in fear? We also love suggestions, so comment below what case you would like us to investigate in the next episode. Stay tuned for our next episode where we continue to uncover the hidden truths behind some of the most intriguing cases.
Until next time, listeners.